All right. Hello, listeners. Welcome to What the Heel. My name is Maria Sellers, and I am the host. And today I have the absolute honor of being joined by Paul Boynton. Paul, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm so excited. It took me a while to get here because I got lost, but I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Hey, but you know what? You got to get lost to get found, right?
That's true. I love that.
Yeah.
That'll be my excuse from now on when I'm late.
There you go. Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah. Always a silver lining. No, it's such an honor to have you here. Paul and I, we met in improv class, actually. And so he was, last year, I kept thinking, I had this intention that I was going to start a podcast at the end of the year. And, you know, meeting my amazing podcast coach in July wasn't enough to get me to start a podcast. My friend giving me podcast equipment wasn't enough to get me started with a podcast. But Paul, my incredible improv friend, he said to me, "Don't you have a podcast?" And so, you know, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. And I was like, I have an intention to have one. I have a coach to have one. And now is the time that I'm going to have one. So thank you so much.
Well, you actually do have one now, right?
Yes.
It's no longer an intention.
Yes, exactly. I'm so grateful to have that. And I'm even more grateful to have you on. So for those of you who don't know Paul, Paul is a best-selling author, speaker, and an international social media guru. He's a believer in dreams, goals, and his Begin with Yes philosophy of using small steps to make big things happen. As a trained social worker and therapist, his career has spanned over 50 years in the healthcare, human services, and nonprofit sectors. He most recently served as president and CEO of the Moore Center, a nonprofit organization that supports individuals of all ages with differing abilities. His first book, Begin with Yes, was released over 10 years ago, and its accompanying Facebook page enjoys an international community of over 2 million followers who are guided by its inspirational messages for taking steps towards a more meaningful life. The book's recent 10th anniversary edition features a foreword by British American actress Jane Seymour. His newest book, Remember, A Little Book of Courage, Comfort, and Hope, was recently released and immediately became an Amazon bestseller. All of his books are available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Paul recently received an honorary doctorate degree from UNH, and his writing has been featured in the Huffington Post and other publications. He has just released an online 21-day Begin with Yes Workbook course, which offers additional online intensive group sessions where participants not only receive coaching from Paul, but also learn from each other's invaluable life experience. Paul's 21-day Begin with Yes Workbook is available through Heal and Create. You can interact with Paul on a daily basis on a social media platform. Paul divides his time through New Hampshire and Florida alongside his partner and lovable pooch, Toby, who is oh so lovable, just like you and Mike both are. So thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor to have you, Paul.
Oh, it's so good. But listening to that long bio, I'm thinking our time is up. So we have to say goodbye now. But.
Right. It goes quick. No, it's an incredible bio. And you're, you know, an incredible human being. It's a direct reflection of who you are.
Well,
so
thank you.
Yes.
And improv was so much fun. This is kind of improv, what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
right?
basically.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
that's actually why I got into improv last year, was to get myself ready for hosting this podcast. Yep. So, you know, thank goodness that I did, and that I met you in my first level 1 course that I did, and, you know, even our repeat level 1 course that we did.
We did better in the repeat course, or at least I feel I did.
I know. So. I'm ready to go back to level 1 now. So.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But tell us more. What the heel is going on in your world, Paul?
I feel like there's so much going on, and I feel like I just actually stepped down from my position as CEO of the Moore Center, as you mentioned in my bio, and so I'm sort of adjusting to a change of pace, but I had done an interview in New Hampshire before I left, which was, let's retire the word retire, because I actually don't feel like for many people that's what's happening. It's really just a change. So now I say I stepped down from that position, and now I'm pursuing other things, which is writing, creating online courses, spending a lot of time on my social media page because I just love all the people there, and it's such an engaged group of people that we're just, all these conversations get started, and it just brings so much goodness into my life, and then just keeping up with the day-to-day realities of paying bills and going grocery shopping and all that other stuff. So I love to talk about optimism grounded in reality, so that you're not this naive, optimistic, head in the clouds kind of thinker, but that you recognize that life is full and difficult and challenging, and there's a lot of things that we have to do. And so finding time to do some of the things that we want to do or are called to do is a challenge, and takes a little bit of discipline and a little bit of effort.
Yes. And did you find that when you were working at the Moore Center, were you tapped into that, or did you have a difficulty maintaining that balance?
I had difficulty maintaining the balance, but maintaining a balance has never been one of my strong suits to begin with. So I'm sort of always tipping one way or the other. But I did find that it was really possible to, like, I think men don't always do well with multitasking, and I actually do well with multitasking. I love to have lots of things going on, so I can go from one thing to the other and just keep several things moving forward at the same time. So I just felt like I was like the luckiest man alive, in that I had a job I loved. I was earning an income, and then I had another sort of side job that I loved just as much. And so I couldn't put as much energy in to begin with Yes when I was working full-time as a CEO, and now I just sort of switch that energy into more time begin with Yes, and the possibilities are endless. It's just,
they really are when you open yourself up to them, and that's a piece that we forget because we get so, it's like, this is how it is. This is how it's going to go. And when we get clung in our expectations, then we shut ourselves off to the infinite possibilities, and there's so many out there.
And then if we're really honest with ourselves and look at how we're spending our time, we find that we're spending a lot of our time not doing things that we really want to do. So it's sort of like, get organized a little bit with your time. And I don't say that lightly, because I know it's a challenge and it's difficult, and we all deserve to sit on the couch and watch, a TV series when we want to, but it's sort of paying attention to how you're spending your time, and even if, like, I'm working with so many people now as a coach who are trying to make big dreams come true, and they've got very complicated, busy lives, and I'm feeling like even if you can find 15 or 20 minutes to do some small thing that moves you in the direction of your big dream, at least you're moving in the direction of your big dream. And to me, that's more important than standing still. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, until you take action, it's only going to be a dream, and it's hard to take action in new directions and to make those shifts and changes. But ultimately, if you're doing the same thing, how can you expect a different result? So, if all you can carve out is 2 minutes to jot sentences in your journal that, I am whatever it is that you want to be, whatever it is you're trying to create, then take those 2 minutes, and it's doing something. So people feel like it has to be that big change, and those little steps really add up.
Yeah, I really truly believe in that. It's funny you mentioned the writing in the journal, because in fact, I just did a workshop this weekend with a friend of mine from Boise, and it was on self-publishing and writing books, and there were so many people in that class that were saying, I want to write a book. And I said, well, write a sentence and then say, I am writing a book. I mean, that changes, the dialogue a little bit, the dialogue that you're talking to yourself. So it's so easy to move from I want to write a book to I am writing a book.
Yeah.
One sentence.
Being in that present, because that's what winds up happening. We put it as a want and need, and it's always a future thing.
Right.
I want to make this happen, or I need to make this happen. And then we're cutting ourselves off.
Right.
It's like, no, I am making this happen.
Yeah, that's a mind shift that changes people's lives.
It really does. Is embodying that in the present. So no, maybe you don't have a book written yet, but I am writing a book and it's amazing.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, being in it now. So that really makes a big difference.
And I love the small steps because there is nothing that anybody listening to this right now that they want to accomplish or do that they could not come up with one small step that would take less than 10 minutes.
Exactly. Yes.
In a day.
To move them in the direction.
Right.
10 minutes. And
Right.
I don't know. We have 20. I don't know math. Well, I do know some math. I don't know what 60 times 24 is. I'm not sure how many minutes are in a day, but you can carve 10 minutes out of your day to chase your dreams. But we have to remember, most importantly, we can't just chase our dreams. We have to wake up first.
Right.
So
good point.
Yes. Getting to that space where we can start, once you wake up, that's when you start to recognize those actions that you can take and go, oh, here's where I'm wasting time and here's where I can make some.
I love that, and I haven't heard it expressed exactly that way, and immediately what my mind went to is for people who still need to wake up, then what they need to be saying is, what's one small thing I can do today that I can begin to wake up?
Yes.
So it's not a switch necessarily that you switch on.
Exactly, where suddenly it all changes, right? It'd be nice if there was a magic switch or magic pill,
Let's look for one.
Right? I'm sure you can create it. No, it's not there. It's an everyday process that we have to continue to move and to make the choice of ourselves and our dreams.
Right.
And
so on the same page with you on that.
Yeah, and that's why I love your book, the little book of courage and hope, because each page it's so easily digestible. It's not giving people too much. You don't have to read it front to back. It's not anything like that. You can just kind of pick it up and take 30 seconds, go through a page and you're like, wow, I feel better after that.
This is the first time that I realized that my writing style actually mirrors what I'm always saying to people, that to take small steps, because so many people say they love my books because they don't have to make a huge commitment.
Yes.
To read the whole thing. So
yes, and that's huge because if you can just take a lot out of a little, that's where there's so much value. But sometimes it's like we try to overdo it and read so much, take in so much. Your brain can't do that.
Right. I once saw a book. It was like the 23 Steps to Happiness. I'm thinking, holy smoke. It's like, I can't even remember the 23 steps, much less do them. So it's like one step at a time, please.
Yes, exactly. And each day it could be a different step.
Right.
It's not, as long as you're consistent in something.
And then sometimes you take 4 or 5 steps and you realize you're going in the wrong direction and something else has caught your attention. And so you just sort of shift.
Yes.
And begin moving in a different direction. So you're not locked in by taking a small step. It's
right.
not a huge commitment, and it's not something that's going to force you into getting your PhD if after a couple of months of working on that you decide you want to be a surfer instead and go to Hawaii. So
yeah, the opportunities are endless. Right. Like, why not move in the direction that feels best for you? Because I feel like a lot of people out there, it's like we get stuck in what we think is best for us, and then we disconnect from the feeling, and at that point we're just kind of going through the motions within life.
Right. Do you find too that sometimes people sort of adopt what someone else has told them?
Yes. I mean, so much of what we go with isn't even ours. Right?
Where did that come from?
Where did that come from? There's this story, and this woman, every year for Easter, she would prepare a roast. And so she would cut off the last 2 inches of the roast every single year, put it in the pan. And finally, after 20 years, her husband is like, why do you do that? And she's like, well, I don't know. My mother always did it. So she's like, there must be a reason. So she calls her mother and she's like, why do we cut the last 2 inches off the roast? And her mom said, honey, our pan wasn't big enough. And so, there's things that we do
Right.
that we don't even realize they're not ours. And we don't know where that came
Right.
from. Yeah. So
I'm nodding my head and I realize you can't hear a head nod. Can you?
not so much,
All
but
right.
I can see it.
All
So
right.
yeah. So listeners, picture it. Paul is nodding his head in agreement
And there's something about you that I think you could hear a head nod.
Yeah.
So
all that energetic potential.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to start to gain that awareness for our listeners to start to see, where is this pattern coming from? Where did I pick this behavior up along the way?
it's, I have as you said, a big Begin with Yes following, but I've started a much smaller group of people who have been reading my books and getting engaged in that. And I put out this question just asking people to just, if they dared, shared what some of their big dreams were. And someone shared last night, I didn't read it until this morning, but they said that they didn't even dare tiny dreams. And I thought, oh my God. So what I said is, like, just keep going smaller and smaller and smaller until you can come up with one tiny little dream.
Yes.
And so we all have to start at different places, and we've got some good reasons for why that is true. But I think one of the things we need in our lives is to have other people in our lives that encourage us, that say, yes, you can. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe the gift I can share with this person is dream of a really tiny, tiny dream. And move away from that I don't dare dream dreams.
Yes. And allow yourself to get started just with something.
Right.
And because that's where possibility lives.
Right.
And that's where life is exciting, but we cut ourselves off because you go through life and hurt happens. Majority of our pre-programming, right, starts back when we're children, like before we're even 10 years old. And, when we go through our life without that awareness to things can be different, and I can dream, and I can be supported, and I can belong to things, we can move through and start to make those things happen because we feel that connection. Right. And that's so important.
I totally agree with you. And the other thing I see people doing is that they focus on what they don't have control over, and they miss all the things that they do have control over.
Exactly.
So, yes, you cannot control the weather today, so you can't make it not rain if it's going to rain, but you can control whether you bring an umbrella with you when you go to work.
Right.
So it's like those kinds of shifts are life changers, really, when you begin to play around with sort of shifting even the language that you use or how you talk to yourself. And I'm always, because I wrote Begin with Yes, and because I'm always talking about this, my partner Michael is always saying, oh, that doesn't sound very Begin with Yes. And my kids do that
gosh.
too. Yeah, so I'm always getting called out on it, which I kind of appreciate most of the time. But
yes, I know that's the hard part. Once your partner starts to pick up on things, Randy's will be like, he'll say the same thing, and I'm like, okay. He'll be like, maybe you should grab a crystal. And I'm like, okay, enough out of you. But it's true. It's so good to have that. And it's so good to remember we all are humans growing through this process. And that's why it's like, continue to give yourself grace and compassion and ease as you navigate through life, because it's not all gonna be those rainbow butterfly and glitter sort of days.
That's definitely true. I think the reason that my Begin with Yes page has so many people are drawn to it is because I'm writing from my heart about what I'm dealing with right now. I'm not the professor. even though sometimes I think I look like the absent-minded professor, but I'm not coming at it from a place of knowing everything. I'm coming at it from a place, here's my experience. And I think people resonate with that because it sounds more real.
Yes.
And so consequently, I have 2 million people from all over the world that are sort of encouraging and supporting me, and we try to keep that good energy going back and forth.
It's amazing that reciprocation that happens there. I mean, truly, having that encouragement on your end helps so much, because when you're, exploiting your vulnerabilities and talking about your feelings, the big F word, right? Like, that's some deep stuff, and so as you're pouring your heart out into that, you're connecting with other people and reminding them they're not alone, that, other people are going through and growing through these things as well. But then, from them, you also get to feel that same upliftment when they share with you, oh my gosh, this has impacted me so much. I mean, you have no idea how much this has inspired me. All of those things.
People are always saying, like, are you in my head? How did you know I needed to hear this? Well, I didn't know you needed to hear it. I just know that this needs to be heard because I need to hear it. So,
exactly.
So I'm going to put it out there and see what happens. The other thing that I think is kind of like a miracle to me is that now that we have so many people, like, the people take care of people in that community. And so it's not just my responsibility to show up and encourage or support or even acknowledge other people. And people are doing that with each other. And that kind of peer support, I actually think is a small but significant partial answer to the mental health crisis that we see in this country. People are lonely, and people just don't have people in their life who they can just share a thought or an idea or a feeling.
Right, exactly. To have those conversations about feelings with, because I know when I grew up, it's not something that you talked about, and when you have those conversations, it changes your life because you connect on that level, and it's like, oh wait, no, we all have things going on at different capacities. And, even if your scenario isn't the same, it still resonates. There's still, people can connect to that. And there's so much value in that. So I'm so grateful that you have the community that you do, not just for you, but for everyone else too.
Yeah, it's just so much good energy. One of the favorite things, I wrote a short piece for the Huffington Post quite a while ago, because I grew up as a gay kid and living in the closet, and I had this sense, mostly because of what media has sort of fed us, is that gay people are in the closet. And I wrote this short piece about, like, I got in the closet, but I started looking around, and I had lots of company that all of us are hiding some parts of ourselves. Or maybe not all of us, but just about all of us.
Yes.
And so I said, the closet is full. It's not just gay little boys and girls. It's all kinds of little boys and girls who are told that they shouldn't be dancers, or they shouldn't be math teachers, or they shouldn't want to go to Europe and hitchhike, or, all these things that we have to hide away.
Yes.
Stop being so loud. Stop being so you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a great way of looking at it. I need to read that piece because it's so true.
One of my favorite ones.
Yes, you can see that so much, and it's true. Like, we don't have to hide these parts of ourselves. You can live out loud. It's beautiful when you do, and people will resonate with that.
And when you do that, you're giving somebody else permission. And I think this is especially important for parents who have children, because the way we live our lives is teaching our kids how to live their lives. And a lot of times when I'm counseling people or coaching people who are in difficult situations, I would say, if this was your child in this situation, what would you want for your child? And they know instantly what is the right thing for their child, but they have so much trouble seeing that as the right thing for themselves.
Yes, it's like reparenting themselves in that way.
And it saves a lot of time because it just cuts to the quick, and parents know if they love their kids what they want for their kids. And so if by staying in a bad relationship, and I'm sure I'm sort of going down a weird path right now, but if you're staying in a weird relationship, for the benefit of the kids, what you're teaching your kids is to stay in unhealthy relationships, right?
Yes, and just encouraging that pattern of toxicity within relationship, because that's what it should feel like. Like, I when there's people who go through divorce and they're like, we were fighting all the time and blah, 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 I congratulate them. I'm like, good, you got out of that situation and you're setting that impression for the kids, because I came from, my parents were divorced and they fought all the time. And like until you build awareness later on, you keep recreating that. And so, in one of my relationships, like we would get in fights all the time, and it felt normal, like these screaming matches. But then as I started to become aware, I'm like, oh no, wait, that's not a normal thing, but you don't know because this is what you know.
Correct.
So, establishing that and then stopping and going like, wait, would I talk, if I was a child, would I talk to me like that? Yeah. If I was my best friend, would I let them stay in this situation? And no, actually. So, we have to build the awareness to the patterns that we're continuing to produce within our life. And
then bring it back to our dreams. And if you're not pursuing your dreams for a million other reasons, then what are you teaching your kids?
Yes.
Your dreams aren't important, and don't pursue them.
Exactly.
Which is, I don't know many parents who would say that's their philosophy.
Yes, but they subconsciously, that's what they're
teaching.
Exactly. Right. Yes. So I think that's a really important thing, for parents to remember, or anyone in a role model position for children, right? Because sometimes kids can see those outside of their parents and go, oh, that's what I want to emulate. So, whether you're a parent or not, there are kids watching you. Right. So, inspire in the right direction. And, the inner child of the adults are watching you too.
That's a very good point. So anyone listening, if you're not following your dreams, you're teaching a lot of people.
Yes.
Including your kids and the kids that are around you and your friends and the people that you work with, that it's not, that according to you, you don't think that's important.
Exactly. I mean, us being an improv, like people, when we've posted that on social media, I mean, they're like, oh my gosh, like how cool, and it inspires them. Right. One girl, I know, after we had our first showcase, which you were in New Hampshire for. But after this showcase, and I posted, this girl was like, oh my gosh, I sang karaoke tonight or last night. She's like, I never would have sang karaoke, but you posted and shared how this is something beyond your comfort zone, but here you are and you're going to do it. And she's like, and I read your post and was going out with my friends and I got up there and did it. And
then how many people has she influenced?
Exactly. So. Yeah. There's just a web of that that continues to grow and evolve.
Yeah, it's a force field that is so exciting to me that I can't hardly contain myself. So.
No, truthfully. And there was a study this man did with tuning forks. And so he would teach with tuning forks, and he would have a big conference room, big seminar happening, and he would place tuning forks all over the room, and they were all tuned to the same frequency. Well, when he would hit that fork on stage, all of the other forks in the room started going off. So when you're holding that higher frequency and you allow people to come into that as well, they can begin to do that. And then that helps to awaken that in other people too, just like the frequency of, those tuning forks all going off just from striking one, not anywhere even near those. So
that's a wonderful illustration, and I'm sitting here thinking, and that the sound comes right back to you too, doesn't it?
Exactly. So, yes, it all feeds, each other within that vibration. Yep. And I think that your work really helps people to tap into that higher vibration and be embodied in that frequency.
Oh, I love how that sounds. So.
Yeah, I really think that it makes such a big difference. So I'm so grateful for all that you share and the community that you've built. And for our listeners who are looking for opportunities to work with you, where should they find you?
The easiest, first of all, I would say come join our Begin With Yes page on Facebook and Instagram too, but Facebook is the primary page for that. And then also my website, which is just www.beginwithyes.com, and they can find out all about my books and my coaching and speaking and all of that. So I'd love to have them check it out. And you know what? I should also mention that if there are people here that are listening that can't afford to buy my books, I do free downloads on my website, so they can go there and download a free copy of my first book, Begin With Yes, and my newest book, which is Remember, a little book of courage, comfort, and hope. So,
Yes.
So I just want there not to be a good excuse for why you haven't read my books if you want to.
Exactly, and begin to uplift. No, that's so amazing. You are incredible, Paul. I'm so grateful to know you, and I'm so grateful to have you on today.
And we've got improv to thank.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much for having me. This
Yes.
has been a ball.
No, it really has. Thank you so much, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Please go out, find, and connect with Paul. He really is an incredible source of light in your life. So I look forward to seeing everyone next week. Thanks all.